I started my day normally. I sat down at the computer, opened up my emails, and our Virtual Silver Falcons Facebook page had an email from a Major Esterhuyse.
It's a monster. It's a monster. It's at the same time it's not forgiving. It does have power. The horsepower is amazing, but it's not forgiving. The mission of the Silver Falcon is the backbone of the South African Air Force. So, South African Air Force mandate is to protect the sky, air supremacy. Then within the air supremacy, then you get the cherry on top, which is now the Falcons. And their role is to now display the precision, the passion, and as well as the aerobatics that the military pilots can do within the Air Force itself.
Deep down, I think all of us want to be a fighter pilot or a helicopter pilot at some point in time. Joining the Air Force is obviously the best way of doing that. Unfortunately, reality hits a lot of us and it's not a possibility for many people. And that is literally why flight simulation is so important for so many people. It allows us to fulfill those dreams, get those little naggly desires out of the way, and still live the life that you want to live and have that desire fulfilled. I've always wanted to do formation flying. When I first got my pilot's license, one of the first flights I did was formation flying. Got a couple of friends together, did a ground briefing, took out the Piper Tomahawks, and we flew. It was great, I loved it. The problem is I don't get to fly often, can't afford to have gas, so needed to go and fill that gap, fill that need. So I ended up starting the Virtual Silver Falcons. And there was no better team to replicate besides our national team. So that's why I went and started pulling things apart and putting things together and looking for people to fly with.
What does aviation mean to me? It's actually a very emotional story and a very interesting one. Why? Because first and foremost, what aviation does, it takes a normal human being out of their normal habitat. So that's one thing that he has done for me, where now from just being able to walk on the ground, now I can touch to the sky. And then, like they always say, once you touch the sky, you'll definitely not want to look back. So that's something that he has done for me, and it has shown me that there is actually more to life than what a normal person would perceive. So yeah, I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot. I think I'm now more matured, if I would put it like that. And it's only because of aviation. The passion, that's the element, the most important element when it comes to aviation. The band, the eagerness too. So the minute you can crack that, and then aviation, it's literally another world.
I came from a military family. My grandfather served in the Air Force in Libya and Egypt. and I've always wanted to fly. There was nothing else I ever wanted to do in my life. Unfortunately, the Air Force was not a possibility for me at the time. So I had to find an alternative route. Ended up flying as a PPL with my paper round money saved. But avgas is expensive, and being able to hop onto the simulator with like-minded people and get to actually experience flying as close as we can, it's a wonderful thing that we should all try and do if you can't get into the air every day.
I was fortunate enough to be raised in aviation. My dad flew before I was born, and before I could walk I was in an ultralight, flying RC planes from 7 years old, and I went solo in 2005 on a 172, and pretty much ultralights and Raven 500s for a long time.
I've got a photo somewhere of me, I think I was about 4 years old, standing on the wing of a plane in nothing but my underwear and a beer. And I think it was at that moment that my father realized the kind of career that I was going into. And with him being a pilot, it was only natural that I was going to follow in his footsteps. And I got my PPL in 2009. I could fly a plane before I could drive a car, and I completed my commercial pilot license in 2011.
As a Silver Falcon, the foremost quality is what I just spoken about now, the passion, the eagerness, the drive. Because first and foremost, you will leave your family, you will leave your loved ones to go and rekindle somebody else's fire. So if you do not have the eagerness to leave your immediate work and go out there, whichever the air show season might be at, already you are lagging behind. Then once you get there, again, the pride. What are you going to go do when you get to the display area, to an air show? How do you address yourself? What type of energy are you now portraying or reflecting to the next person, so that person can now be inspired to come back and want to do what you do, or even do much better. And then obviously the last thing that we always speak of is precision. That the more you do something, the better you become.
The preparation for a show is extremely intense. It's obviously many months of work, and we start at the ground level. So first off, we'll go and we'll review a little bit of footage from the real team, kind of figure out what they're doing, start getting our altitudes, airspeeds, that sort of the basics in place. From there, we'll start proceeding to just getting the guys into basic formations, doing the formation changes, getting a feel for that and getting everybody comfortable, knowing where their position is in the formation, doing the sort of safety aspect of it as well. Even though it is in a simulator, we need to be professional about it. We need to make sure that we are conducting ourselves, you know, within real world regulations as well, and that just sort of helps build that level of professionalism on top of that. So yeah, we start with that, and then we slowly start building our way into the routines. We'll run through a few maneuvers, but it's a multiple month process. It's, I'd say, at least 4 to 5 hours a week of training. We usually split that into 2 separate training sessions, and we get as many sequences as we can per training session, and then we'll slowly build on that. But each one is go out, fly the sequence, get a feel for it, and then come back and debrief afterwards. Make sure we're breaking that down correctly so that when we go out for our next flight, we're improving on it, we're not just sort of stagnating in one place. So yeah, that slowly builds on, and for the new guys who are joining us as well, for our new cadets, the people that we're training up to fly as Virtual Silver Falcons, regardless of the experience that we have, it's obviously quite an intense training program there as well. We start with the basics, takeoff, landing, touch and goes, learning how to fly a circuit, stalls, spins, etc. Everything you would expect from general sort of private pilot's license training is the kind of stuff that we go through as well, just so that they have a complete picture. It's not a case of they just fly formation or they just fly with the team, but we want to give them a good overview of aviation as a whole before we start to move them through. And then we slowly draft them into the team. We move them around to different positions, see where they feel most comfortable, and then see where they excel as well, and then develop and grow on that. And I think overall that level of preparation and bringing the students up from that point up to where we expect them to be definitely pays off. And I think in a case in point, we had one of our new guys who's joined us, Chris, he's been flying with us for a few months now, and case in point, when he got into the real simulator for the PC7, he did a phenomenal job, to say the least. His formation flying was absolutely perfect. He was spot on, nailed his landing, and this is someone who has zero experience with real world aviation. So as a proof of concept, there's your proof.
My name is Chris Kitter. I've been flying with the team for about a year now, on and off, but mostly on the 3, so left wing. The only flight experience I have so far is being passenger flying to Cape Town for this. In the sim, definitely a few hundred hours. I couldn't tell you exactly, but it's been, I've got quite a bit of experience just in simulators.
Practicing in the flight simulator, learning in that environment, using those techniques to then apply to a real world or a more advanced simulated situation, it works. It's a valid technique. It's used in real world training as well, and it was great to see that get its own validation for us before our own eyes to prove that what we were doing was actually effective, and it makes a difference.
Whether it's a certified training flight simulator from a flight school or a computer, to be very helpful, even if you just have a computer at home. It definitely helps to be able to practice certain procedures and maneuvers on your own time. It's very invaluable, and you can practice it as many times as you'd like without wasting too much money in that area.
Major Esterhuyse, he dropped a little sneaky bomb in there saying, hey, you might be able to get a chance to fly one of our simulators, which was an opportunity I could not pass up.
how did you think our team, the Virtual Silver Falcons, performed on the simulators compared to your expectations?
How did the Virtual Falcons perform today? Firstly, I would say no, you guys cheated. Why? Because it showed that you are familiar with the software, not necessarily our software, but the digital software, the virtual software. You have been putting the work, so today it did show. And the first and foremost, once the formation gets airborne, on the takeoff, the station keeping, the fact that you're able to match with that ease, the sensitivity of the simulation itself, you're able to handle it with so ease, then they already put you in a bracket which is way above than any a normal, or even actually a normal pilot. So yeah, your virtual flying, I must say, it really is on point. Impressive.
The planes flew exactly how I thought the planes would fly. The biggest hurdle was force feedback and trim. On our stuff, you don't have to trim that much. You can force it. Holding your rudder in to keep that balance, not a problem. But holding that rudder in when the airplane is fighting you and those aerodynamic forces are pushing that leg, it wears you out very quickly. So learning to trim the simulator as quick as possible and actually having that as a new benchmark to try and overcome as quickly as possible, I think that was the biggest difference for us. Our team, we fly the simulators as close to real life as possible. We don't mess around. If you take an airplane up, you've got to land that airplane. We've got to follow the numbers. Everything needs to be done by procedure. It is a game. People will argue that and say it's a simulator. It's a simulator if you fly it as like a simulator. It's a game if you play it as a game. So our team, we've been following Air Force protocol. We've been following checks. Everything we do as accurate as possible. Might be a bit geeky, but we are all real pilots. At the time, we were all real pilots, and I was adamant that we would never do negative learning. I don't want any bad habits to transfer from playing a computer game into our real life flying. So I expected our guys to actually do well, but at the same time, I expected us to embarrass ourselves.
The South African Air Force were extremely accommodating to us when we arrived, which we weren't really expecting. These are guys who have vastly more experience than us. As far as we're concerned, we just fly flight simulators. It's a hobby. Most of us are real-world pilots as well, but they treated us like family. They were extremely welcoming, extremely open to answering all of our questions and to taking us through the whole process. If there was anything we were unsure of, they were just completely open and very helpful with that. Aside from that, very professional, very disciplined, extremely passionate about what they do, not only about how they conduct themselves and what they do in their day-to-day operations, but also about what we do as well. We often find that the questions were bouncing back towards us, and they were just as interested in us as we were in them. So that exchange of information, that moment of spending time with like-minded people was invaluable, and it completely blew us away. So after spending the day with the Silver Falcons, seeing their passion, seeing their dedication, seeing their absolute drive, we understand now, and we're reminded why we chose to represent them as a virtual team, and we wish them nothing but the best going forward.
Well, I did my normal routine. I opened up Facebook. I was going to debate some flat earthers, but instead I saw a message on our virtual silver.
No, just skip the flat earthers part.
Okay, that's getting cut.
Yeah.